Chapter 957. Emma quickly said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Brown. Alex and I are doing great." Then, she blushed and said apologetically, "Mrs. Brown, I'm sorry for not being able to visit you in Westcliff. I wouldn't even have known that you had recovered and were back to Orris Hill if Alex hadn't told me. I'm terribly sorry." "Oh no, please don't, honey. You guys have helped so much. You took care of me in the hospital when I was seriously ill. I may have already died from the illness if it weren't for you two helping me with the bills." Mrs. Brown's eyes reddened with tears and she choked up. "I'm ever so thankful to you, Emma. You had to take care of the Richard family affairs as well as me. It must have been very hard on you. I feel very thankful and guilty at the same time. I'm a burden to both of you. It should be me who says sorry." Emma grabbed her hands tight and said, "Mrs. Brown, don't forget that I'm Alex's wife. You are his fairy godmother, which means you are my fairy godmother too." Mrs. Brown shed grateful tears upon Emma's remark, and she felt that the young lady was a little different from the past as she saw her again this time. Although it was not the first time Emma had accompanied Alex to visit her in the orphanage, previously, there was always a vague feeling of alienation and coldness between them that indicated that they had no feelings for each other. However, when she saw them again this time, they were holding hands, and it seemed that their relationship had improved a lot. In the past, Mrs. Brown often heard a lot of worrisome rumors about them that made her concerned about their relationship. Fearing that someday Alex would be kicked out of the Richard family when they divorced, she could finally heave a sigh of relief upon the sweet sight of them together. Meanwhile, everyone gaped in astonishment upon listening to their conversation. Only now did they learn about the things Alex and his wife had done for Mrs. Brown when she was sick. Alex was humble as always. He was sincere in helping Mrs. Brown for the sake of repaying her unconditional love and favor. Never did he think of doing this to show off in front of others. Ian was utterly depressed though. He had taken the liberty to organize this reunion, which was also why everyone had come together to visit Mrs. Brown today. He thought that as a successful man, he could make a spectacle of himself in front of others during the reunion and shower himself with compliments as well as have a fling with Linda. Unexpectedly, Alex had come out of nowhere and stolen his limelight, making him look like an insignificant billboard in the background. Ian glared at Alex with a tinge of resentment. Mrs. Brown patted Emma's hand and said, "Emma, you and Alex are not young anymore. It's about time for you to have a kid. Alex is the only one married among the kids that left the orphanage at the same time. The rest of them are still single. Hurry up, I can't wait to cuddle my little god-grandchildren." Emma blushed timidly. She and Alex had been married for 3 years, but no one had ever urged them to have a baby. Her entire family except her grandfather had looked down on him and prayed that she could divorce Alex someday. No one had wanted them to have a child together. However, as Mrs. Brown pushed the idea into her thoughts, in addition to being shy, she had some peculiar feelings brewing inside her. Emma would soon be 26 years old, the optimal age of childbearing. At this age, motherhood and motherly senses started to grow inside of her. Even when she saw other people with children, maternal love would overflow in her heart, and she wondered when she could have a baby of her own. However, her complicated family affairs stopped her from considering this issue. Hence, she said shyly, "Mrs. Brown, we haven't had much thought about children yet. I have just started my business, and it is the busiest time right now.